I was just a bit better at beatboxing than everyone else because no one else does it. They're just going to give you some Gaviscon and you should sort of slowly deflate.
I don't think I should go on this Nazi podcast because they have not got good mic placement. We're just a couple of business anchors, something business anchors podcast. Jingle too long.
I love that we're excited. Oh, yeah, we got Robbie on the podcast and everything. He's singing the jingle and everything, and everyone else going, "Why have they suddenly got that weird guy just sort of mumbling the jingle? What's going?"
Absolutely fine.
Great brand deal.
Yeah. I don't know if we've started yet. Is this podcast on or not? I don't know what's going on.
Who knows? I'll maybe.
Yeah,
I'll just start
Lloyd.
talking
This
now.
is good.
I originally got in touch with Robbie because I watched the video that you sort of put out about being creative and not caring what other people think and that sort of thing. And I thought for business people at the moment, where, let's be honest, a lot of people might be twiddling their thumbs and finally have the time to try that thing that they've been saying for years they want to do. I thought it'd be good for us to talk about that. But for those who haven't seen this video, Robbie, which I'm sure won't be many because I'm sure it's done very well. Can you just sort of summarise what that was all about?
So I did a video. A lot of my videos. Well, my videos are about quite a variety of stuff, really. So some of the things are exciting things like going skiing on holiday or something like that. But a lot of them are stuff like taking the bins out or other things like that. Partly because a lot of the times I'd have arguments with clients who say that things in their business aren't interesting enough to film, so I'd have to go, I've got 40,000 views of me taking the bins out, mate, so you bloody business.
Brilliant.
So a bit of that, but this video is slightly different to most things I do, which is sort of I guess encouraging people not to worry about online criticism, because it's something that certainly when I was younger, I think probably most people worry a bit, like not necessarily online but friends and family. What will they think if I do a podcast or start a YouTube channel when I'm 40 or whatever, whether they'll what are people going to think, I'm being an idiot or having a midlife crisis or something, or things like that. And I think people worry a bit much about that, and it was me sort of explaining my sort of mindset on how I'd no longer worry about these things, which is basically the summary of it is that the other day my 2-year-old son told me he didn't like onions in his onion gravy, which is quite a sort of key part of it, and so he but I'm saying that that's not my problem. That's a problem for him, obviously. Like, I'm not going to stop having onions in my onion gravy because he doesn't like it. So if we agree that that's his problem, then why would someone's opinion on my video affect me, if that makes sense? So it's that sort of having that sort of mindset that other people's opinions don't work. So my procedure when I make something creative that's for me, not obviously client work, it's up to them what they have a final thing. They're paying for it, they can do what they like.
You don't kind of say, you are having onions in this video.
I'll give them guidance on why they might want onions, but obviously ultimately it's their decision, and so it should be. But for things that I'm making, I will plan it, write, record, whatever it is I'm doing, and then listen back or watch back and go, am I happy with this? Is this of the quality that I, in the loosest possible terms, in inverted commas, quality that I desire? And if so, then that's the end of the qualitative feedback discussion. And I'll politely reply to anyone who says that it's good or bad. And it's nice having good comments. I'm not saying I don't want people. I don't listen to that.
It still feels nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not saying it also don't ignore all feedback. If someone's saying, I can't hear your microphone, don't go, well, I just said it was good enough so you can hear my microphone. Like, listen to things like that, but whether or not it's good, once you put it out there, that should be the end, I think, of the discussion.
I do think that's easier said than done, though.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Personally, I still struggle a lot to... I was watching True Geordie's True's News the other day, and he summed it up really well. He said that now he just doesn't read any comments because there'll be 1,000 people saying, you're wicked, this is amazing. One person says a shitty comment, and then that one shitty comment stays in your mind for the whole day. And I completely resonated with that because I'm exactly the same. The good stuff's great, and then one shitty comment, I'm like, I start questioning myself. And so I want to be like you, Robbie. And how do you actually implement what you're saying rather than just...
I think the key is, if you like, you've got to ignore the good bits as well as the bad bits. So, I'm just going to sound arrogant, but I will get regular messages telling me
you're
I'm their
amazing.
favourite YouTuber or goat emojis and all this sort of stuff like that. And it's nice.
That's all me. That's all me, Robbie. It's all me. I've got
and
loads of
very
accounts.
welcome they are, Lloyd. But you have to ignore that as well. And if you go, this video, so there's videos that people go, this video's amazing. I go, it's all right. Whereas the one at the this video, the one that you saw, I think is really good. And I've decided it's in the top 10% of the videos I've made. And that opinion doesn't change. It's got, I think, 12,000 views as last time I looked, something like that. There's videos that have had 100,000 views that I've done that aren't as good in my opinion. And it's subjective. Subjective, isn't it? It's one of the objectives. That it's an opinion, isn't it? Sort of thing. But my opinion is what matters for my videos. I think. So I think if you start to believe all the good things, then you're going to inevitably also believe those. But if you just decide, I don't care what other people think.
I do think it's so important, especially with people starting out. Like we were saying, a lot of people in this time might be starting these new things, these new creative ventures, because a lot of people, again, not blowing our trumpet, but a lot of people in business say, I can't create videos like you guys. I can't do that. And therefore they use that as a thing to say, I'm not going to start. But in reality, our first videos were absolutely terrible.
We did a
and
video
if we cared about what everyone thought at the start, it would have been. We would have stopped after the first video.
Yeah, and you're rubbish at wherever you start. I don't mean you. I mean people.
Oh, thanks, Robbie.
That's another quote.
I used to film a politician, like a sort of a London head of council politician who was terrified of doing media things, whereas I would. I've done live TV for 7 years. I'd be completely happy if you set up a camera and got me to do something to 250,000 people. That wouldn't faze me at all. Yeah. But if I had to stand up in front of a council and read a council meeting, I'd be terrified. So it's just it's practice, isn't it, with anything?
Yeah.
I think it was interesting what you said as well about some of your not shitter videos, but videos you'd class as shitter that you've made got like 100,000 views, whereas this new video, which you'd say has got 12,000, which is that top 10% of what you make. Because I feel the same with in the whole social media marketing space, sort of engagement and getting people online to engage with your content is what everyone strives for. But I've seen we've spent ages producing really slick, cool content, like video content that gets X amount of views and engagement, and then the other day I wrote a question on LinkedIn saying, what's the worst business advice you'd give right now, and hundreds of people comment and engage with it, thousands of views
about
just
one sentence
on a text-based post that I thought of within 2 seconds. So but again, I think from a business sense, it's from our perspective, we take into account how much value does that add for us in terms of, is it going to help us generate business in the long run? If our number one goal is to generate business and there's a post talking about cheese and it gets 1 million views, that's not going to help us with our objective of growing a business. Whereas if we create something that shows the great work we do and it gets 500 people watching it, and one person in the marketing team sees that and hires us, that's going to help. So
if we think it's good for what we're trying to achieve, but only 5 people watch it,
I guess
and
how
one of them becomes a customer. It's
from your perspective, Robbie, I'm really interested is your YouTube channel, do you feel, is that just a creative outlet that you just love doing? Is there any objective? Is it to drive business? Is it tell us how that works.
So I run if people didn't listen to the previous episode, I run a video production company, and we do a lot of sort of corporate videos, and a lot of the stuff I do, because I prefer doing it, to be honest, to the bigger things, is me or another cameraman going along and filming something, and then me editing it, and if it's simple graphics, I'll do it. If not, I'll get a graphics guy to do it, sort of thing. And I enjoy doing it. I like it, but I'm also aware that I'm 42 now, and when I'm 52, am I going to be wanting to get on a train to Manchester to film a YouTuber playing FIFA
Probably not.
Trent Alexander-Arnold? I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I might be. I'm not sure. Yeah. But I'm also sort of aware that, and diversification, I'm also aware that if I went skiing a couple of weeks ago, if I broke my arm there, I'll be limited in my earnings. So there's an angle of diversification of thinking, well, if I can do things like podcasts where I can talk, as long as I've got my voice, I'm all right. And if I'm doing sort of YouTube stuff, then I've got a bit of sort of flexibility there as well. So my plan was to make money from the YouTube thing, but my time scale was a lot longer than it's turned out to be. So I was thinking in 5 or 10 years, I'd like to be making a portion of my money, not necessarily my entire income, from the YouTube stuff. And at the minute, I make some money from it, not enough to fund my extravagant lifestyle, but yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So I wanted to talk. I'm very intrigued to find out from both of you. Actually, I wanted to talk about some creative endeavours of your part, because we're sort of saying, guys, try some new stuff, whether it's in your business or personal life. If it's just to have fun,
free time now,
or to make money, you've got free time. But I'm intrigued to find out if we've had any kind of failed creative endeavours in the past, because at the end of the day, some of them are kind of failed thing, and you do it and then think, I don't quite like that, or I wasn't quite good enough for that. But have you got anything, Dan, creatively?
The only things I can think of for me are focused around the business, like we spoke about before in the previous episode, our failed board game that we were going to create, and we invested hours and hours into developing this board game. Another thing is the light bulb idea. We invested. We even got contacts in China to produce these smart light bulbs and things. Yeah. But for me, I'm trying to look back at I used to love drawing, and that was about. I can't think of what other creative things I did. You've got loads of weird creative.
I think in our business I am the weird creative one. So I am much more down that route of trying weird things. But
what?
I was trying to think before this podcast. What creative things are a bit weird that I used to do? And there's so many of them. But one of them, growing up in my late teens and early 20s, was beatboxing.
Oh yeah, I remember
which
that.
is
that phase.
Quite strange. But the weird, I quite liked it. Just if I was on my own and stuff, I quite liked.
Go on, Lloyd, boss, we're here. Give us a little.
I was going to say, we can't let that go past without. Just drop a few beats.
Right. So actually, I'm going to go on to talk about this story because Robbie's basically replicating exactly what my best friend did for years whenever he had a drink. So beatboxing I just did as a. Do you like the way that I've just gone past that without doing it?
I'm coming back to it.
Okay. But yeah, it was just something I like. Oh, this is quite fun. I like doing this when I'm on my own and stuff. And then my mate Johnny, whenever we had a beer, he'd be speaking to a group of girls or something because he's good at that, and I never was. I'd be in the corner doing something else, probably beatboxing to myself. And every time he had a drink, he'd tell everyone in whatever pub, "Oh, my mate Lloyd, he's well good at beatboxing," and he'd get me over. Like there'd be this group of drunken people, "Go on, show us." Yeah. And anything that's built up like that, I think you're set up to fail. And the reality was, I was just a bit better at beatboxing than everyone else because no one else does it. So it wasn't impressive.
Go on, Lloyd. We all know you've teased us up to
just do a little bit.
No, I think, to be honest, you don't understand the technical side of this, Dan, but I don't think this mic's set up.
You're not warmed up properly. And
I don't really want you spitting anywhere over here either because of coronavirus. So.
We'll just do a quick rap then.
Oh, go on then. But yeah, so that was my weird kind of, and again, he asked me to do it. I was dressed as, this is such a weird story. I was dressed as Aladdin once in the beer garden of a pub late at night, and he again, classic, came over with a group of people. "Oh, Lloyd, they want to hear you beatboxing," and I was like, "Oh, great." And I actually, obviously, it went like everything. When you're a little bit proud of something you can do, it's got no, I'm not going to. And then suddenly it was like, yeah.
I thought we were going to get it.
No, sorry. So it got to that point, and then I was dressed as Aladdin, beatboxing in this beer garden, got quite into it, took a step backwards, and I ended up, my one elbow fell back and my upper half fell through the women's toilet window because I stepped down a step. So I ended up beatboxing dressed as Aladdin and fell into the women's toilets through the glass window. And then I ended that night in A&E with a blood-stained Aladdin costume.
This sounds like an elaborate, made-up story for a legal case involving breaking into a women's toilet.
And
no, honestly, I was beatboxing.
Yeah. That was actually your second. I have to tell this story because it is hilarious. That's the second time you ended up in an ambulance when we were in that pub. The first time was when Lloyd, we were in this pub on a night out called the Dolphin. It's like our local pub. Everyone's gone there since they're about 14.
I have a feeling I know this story, and it's going to be more embarrassing than a beatboxing.
We were on a
story.
night out. We were on a night out, and Lloyd suddenly started getting really bad stomach pains, and he ended up getting excruciating pains. He said something's not right. So he was actually like crying loads because he was in so much pain. So I was like, shit, something's really, really wrong here. So we called an ambulance. Did we call an ambulance or did your friend drive?
No. I think we got into a tiny Peugeot 106 or something.
We got into a tiny Peugeot 106. Yeah. Went to A&E. Lloyd's literally crying in pain. I was in shock a bit because I was like, my brother's in pain. Got there, and then they said, all right, we'll get him on the... They did a big scan of you, and Lloyd was still in excruciating pain. And then they did a scan of Lloyd's body, and he just had a huge pocket of air in his stomach.
From fizzy beer?
So they literally just gave him a tablet, and it just deflated him. He did a massive fart, and he was fine.
They were really... There were doctors around me really concerned. And actually, my best mate Johnny, who also makes me beatbox, works in the radiography department. So he came into the room, looked at the scan, and suddenly the doctors sort of just started walking out the room like, "Oh, okay." And he came up to me and said, "Mate, you're just in the scan, you're just full of air." And they're just going to give you some Gaviscon, and you should sort of slowly deflate. Yes, that was my. This is a great story for a business podcast. This
I definitely need to go out drinking with you guys. It sounds great fun. Everybody hospitalised every night, dressed as Aladdin.
Well, I wasn't dressed as Aladdin that time.
In my head, you were.
Yeah. But just for any listeners of the podcast, a tip: don't start a night out by wolfing down some beans on toast and drinking 4 bottles of Bulmers. I think that was a recipe for disaster.
Cooked up in your stomach.
But yeah, anyway, we were before Dan decided to reveal my very embarrassing stories to the world about trapped wind and wasting doctors' time. We were talking about creative endeavours. Robbie, obviously you're a very creative guy. Have you had things in the past that sort of we won't know about that you've got into creatively?
I've done things that are no longer around. So by some definitions, you could say they have failed. But I don't think I've ever done anything that hasn't led to something. And it's not necessarily what you intend to. Like even, I'm sure everything that you've done has led to something. I'm sure you've learnt something, or you've got something from the light bulbs or the board game or something like that. And I think, I know I'm planning on doing a YouTube video at the minute on a similar sort of motivational thing about how things lead to stuff.
Nice.
So, for example, a few years ago, it was just before Christmas. I'd done a shop from Sainsbury's, got it delivered and all this. Everything was fine. And then we got invited to someone's house on Christmas Eve. And I said, can you bring dessert or something? So I had to go and get bits for dessert or something. I think I made a carrot cake or something. So I had to go into Sainsbury's, and it was horrendous. And the queues were right down the aisle. The quality of the carrots were rubbish. How can you mess up carrots? They were really expensive. The price had all gone up. It was everything about it was a horrendous experience. And I just thought there's got to be a better way of shopping. So I didn't really tell anyone apart from my wife. But for 6 months, I didn't go to a supermarket. And what? I went, and I was living in London, so it was a bit easier than if you live in somewhere smaller. But and it did. I learned a lot from it. And it did change the way I shop and the way I sort of think about food quite a lot of the time. I still eat the same stuff, but I go to independent shops and stuff. So I might get a veg box delivered, and that's when I start getting milk delivered. And it's a bit annoying when you've said you're going to do it to yourself, and you need some turmeric, but you can't. There's a Sainsbury's 2 minutes walk away with turmeric, but you have to go around. You have to go around 10 local stores to find some.
Be honest, Robbie. Did you ever have a cheeky turmeric trip to Sainsbury's and sort of not tell you?
Okay.
Promise?
Yeah,
Pinky promise?
Absolutely promise.
Oh,
I mean, my wife went to Sainsbury's and bought things. She wasn't joining in on this. But I never at any point said, can you get me turmeric or can you do this? Yeah. But she was getting other things.
He was just huffing and puffing around the kitchen going, I haven't got any bloody turmeric, have I?
Yeah. So I wasn't militant about it. I wasn't going, I'm not using that. I mean, there was no sort of moral standpoint from it. But anyway, so I did that. And then as I said, I hadn't really told anyone, but I thought at the end of it, I wrote a list, I think a little post just on Facebook, and I was in two minds whether to bother doing it or not, but I did it, and about the 7 things I've learned from doing this. And then my friend Gordon, who was used to edit national newspaper, or deputy editor national newspaper, he got me to, he said, "Oh, can I get someone to interview you about this?" Someone I knew who worked for the Huffington Post asked me to write a blog for it. And then I was on a couple of local radio stations talking about it. And I thought at that point, if I wanted to be the guy who doesn't go to supermarkets, that whenever Tesco's has bad results, they get you on the news and things like that, it wouldn't be that hard to do. But I don't care about supermarkets, so it wasn't something I wanted to pursue. But it just showed that you can put yourself forward as an expert, something quite easily if you want to be the guy they get.
I can imagine people seeing you in the supermarket and just taking photos and putting it online. Like, he's in the supermarket. See?
Yeah, I don't want that. So I but then from the Huffington Post thing, once you've written one blog for them, you can do more whenever you want, and they can ignore them if they want, or they'll publish them. Yeah. So I think I might have done one other blog, and then from that they said to me that we've got this brand deal thing with this Chinese cooking thing, and we've got a couple of. We can pay you to do it, and you might win a holiday at the end of it as well. So I did that. There were 2 teams of bloggers. Even though I'd only written 2 blogs in my life, I was a blogger. And there were 2 comedians and there were 2 YouTubers. One of those YouTubers was Jack Mate, who I've met, who has helped me out a lot since then. So I do a podcast with him now. I've got money from people I've met through him. I've got business through as well. So a lot of things have happened from me writing that Facebook post from there. So I think most things that you do lead to something of some sort. I've just started, and I think sorry, I'm going a little preachy here. I think people worry too much about making something perfect rather than just doing something. So the other day, my friend Lloyd Griffith, who's a comedian, just sent me a text saying, should we do a daily podcast while we're in lockdown? Because I live on my own and have nothing to do. And I said, yeah, okay. And then by that evening, that was in the morning, I think. And then I think by 5 o'clock we recorded it. And I sent him the file, he edited it. And it was up by about 7 p.m. It takes a couple of days to get on iTunes and Spotify and that. Yeah. But it was within
so cool.
12 hours, it was up there. And I've got it's easy to do. I've got no expectations, but it will probably lead to something. We might not ever get paid to do it. We might stop doing it when we get out of lockdown. At the very least, some people in his audience will be introduced to me, and some of them will probably subscribe, and one of them might buy a T-shirt down the line. So something will happen, or someone will get in touch, or I'll meet something, and so I think good things always happen if you do something. So I think just trying to do within reason as much stuff of quality, I think it's a good strategy.
I think you are right, because everything we do leads to leading up to us doing this podcast, which obviously this episode is going to be the most successful episode of any podcast ever. I just subscribed to Jack Mate on YouTube when I was probably about 16. Been watching his videos since then. Then obviously heard about you, Robbie. Well, I didn't realise I'd been watching you on Soccer AM throughout my
the olden days,
time as well. But yeah, and now we're talking to you here, and like we said, obviously, we're going to be working on this 6-figure business deal with Robbie after this. But these sort of things, everything you do can lead to things that you definitely don't expect and can't predict. So I think it's just worth doing stuff, isn't it?
Well, I've got a question for you, Robbie.
Okay.
How do you decide what to do? Like, because I can imagine now you're a YouTube megastar. You probably get people just saying, "Oh, can you do this thing? Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that?" How do you decide what to do?
But before Robbie answers, I'm just not sure I should trust his advice on this, because he's agreed to be on this podcast, which shows his decision making isn't great.
He does anything then. He pretty much does anything.
Well, I'll answer that in my answer to Dan's question. By deciding how much effort it is and balancing up the benefits, I will say yes to an unlimited number of things where I do not have to leave my house. that and where people are polite and nice, and there's some kind of quality to what they're doing, sort of thing. Like if it's like, if at least
is that a compliment? Is that a compliment?
It's the loosest possible compliment. Yeah.
Some kind of quality.
Yeah, some kind of quality. Yeah, no, but I mean, if someone says, "Can you be on my podcast?" I listen to it, and they're swearing or being racist or something like that, and that has bad audio quality. I didn't need to add the bad audio quality, didn't I? I'd have said no at the racism. I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have
listening
gone
to that thinking, well, the audio quality's good.
I don't think I should go on this Nazi podcast because they have not got good mic placement. So I would do that. Yes, if someone says, "Can you do this?" You sort of weigh it up, don't you? If someone says, I want to film something with you, I will come to you any day, any place. These are the things I've done before. You can see the quality. And I've done things with people based on that. And also it's worked out for them. There's a guy called Blake who got in touch with me, asked me to be in his podcast. It's a Derby-based podcast called Talk Derby to me. And it's just basically about Derby, and for some reason he watched my videos and wanted me to be on it and talk about Derby. I've been to Derby once. I've been to Matlock, and I have been to Derby once, actually. That's not important. That's not why I'm here to talk about Derby. So I did that, but then since then, and he afterwards emailed me and said, "Hey, by the way, I'm at uni at the minute, but I want to get into video stuff." He does sports sort of stuff, so I've got him on he came down and did some. I've got him paid work. I did something with Wilfred Zaha for Carling recently, and he came along and helped out on that. He does a few other little bits on other things, so he's got work through that, and I've put him in touch with Tubes, and I think he's doing some bits for him as well, sort of thing. So I think it helps everyone, doesn't it? Something, yeah. I don't know where I was going with this. I've forgotten why I was telling the story.
No, I enjoyed it. So I can't remember what we were talking about either, Robbie. But
no, it's how you choose to.
Oh yes, yeah. So weigh up the options and try and do as much as you can. I think a lot of people think that they've got less time than they have to do things. Like my first proper job at Soccer AM, when I was there, my first bit was getting all the costumes and props in, and we'd have the show was a Saturday morning. At the time, when I started, it was 8 till 12, and so 4 hours. There's a lot of stuff going on in it, and we'd have a script meeting that would finish about 12. And for some reason, just because it was the way it had always been done, when I got there, I wasn't allowed to get in any props or costumes before then, in case things changed. They wanted to save money, which was ludicrous. So I basically had really 4 or 5 hours before all the shops shut to get in.
That is mental.
Like 15, 20 costumes, every prop, whatever it is. And also there was no system in place to check it. So I was basically writing it down. People would be talking about an idea, and I'd be going, okay, so for that we need a plastic fish, we need a costume with this, and this. But there was no one giving me a list saying you have to get these bits in. So then you'd be on the show the next day, and they'd go, okay, Robbie, where's the pet monkey or something like that? Which didn't happen very much, but there was occasional bits where you'd sort of go, I didn't realise we were doing that, sort of thing like that. So, but it was quite mental. So, and the way you'd get through that was to write down a list and just tick everything off, just work through it. Like you move a mountain one stone at a time, or whatever the saying is. So because I did that, I very rarely feel I'm too busy to do stuff, or I've got a good gauge of what is too busy. And someone emailed me the other day saying, I'd love to do a YouTube channel, but I don't really have time to because I'm a teacher. You get like 2 months off in the summer. What are you talking about? That's not a thing. It's not like a. If you say because I work 3 jobs to support I'm a single parent, work 3 jobs. I think okay, fair enough. But we're going to get a lot of hate from teachers for that.
I was just about to say, but teachers have an easy life, so it's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, finish at 3, don't you? I know you don't. I know you don't. That's a joke. Just chill out.
I think also the kind of with people's time, thinking long term rather than short term. Like in reality, in the short term, we are making absolutely zero money from this podcast right now, and we're one reason we're doing it is because we enjoy it. Like part of our week, we get to do this and have a fun chat, and it's like, that's great. But I think a lot of business people would kind of look at it and go, well, hang on, with the time of setting that up, paying to get it edited and all this sort of stuff. I've lost half a day where I could have been earning money. I think if you are in a position where you don't have to earn that money for that 3 hours or something, and doing something that could create good opportunities in the future, I think that's another big part.
Our dad calls it jam today and jam tomorrow, doesn't he?
Yes.
If you're working on your jam today, which is just like delivering paid work or doing a shoot, you're not you're not like that's why I like when you said, Robbie, about your YouTube channel. It's kind of your longer play of it's happened sooner than you thought in terms of getting a benefit from it. But I guess your thoughts are still that in the future that's going to continue to grow and grow and grow, and then hopefully have a kind of residual income each month.
Yeah, and I think the more stuff you do, and the more established you'll 100% meet people through this podcast and things like that, and particularly, and you can sort of use it, I guess, to get clients by sort of going, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? While we're here, this is. Do you know what I mean? Like, down the line, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you do, and I do genuinely think that anyone in business or anyone at all who wants to change anything about their life should be producing content on some platform of some sort, because it's. I mean, it's the future, isn't it?
That is a good strategy, like you mentioned, getting potential clients on the podcast. I think one thing you'd want to be careful of is if, like, you want to mainly serve the audience so that they're getting value. Like, you're an interesting person to speak to. You're not a potential client, really, but if we got someone else,
who knows?
Well, who knows? Maybe.
Maybe.
But if we could get marketing directors on from different companies, and it could be a great opportunity for us, but it could be a really shit podcast because they're not very good on podcasts. I suppose
it's the same kind of the same kind of judgment with like brand deals for YouTube Megastars. It's like, yes, this can be good right now, but if I'm flogging this thing that has nothing to do with anything I do or like, or
I think it's the being open thing, like Jackmate does. He clearly says in his brand deals at the start, like, oh, these guys just paid me to sell you the stuff. But yeah, please do to support me. I quite like that rather than the sort of snidey influencers not sharing that it's an ad.
People have realised now that most people aren't stupid. So if you randomly put a teeth whitener in your video and it's just in your mouth for the whole video and doesn't make any sense, and then have a link at the end of the video, people don't just go, oh, they probably just love that teeth whitening thing.
I would counteract that by saying about 50% of people are stupid, roughly. But you want to be targeting the ones that aren't stupid anyway. So I certainly wouldn't say that people aren't stupid. I say quite a lot of them are.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Just to clear that.
I certainly know that 50% of the hosts of this podcast, that's completely right.
Yeah, definitely not me.
So, moving on, I did say at the start, or actually I think at the start of part 1, Robbie, you are our survival, creativity and positivity expert.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. Survival? Like Bear Grylls?
I think... Yeah,
we just made it up.
I'm
there,
not sure what we were going
enough.
there, but it sounded great. But you've told us how our businesses can survive, Robbie. You've got all of the business advice we need. But the positivity stuff, I think you are, well, from an outsider's perspective, you are, because obviously we've only met recently, virtually as well. You do seem very positive, and I think for a lot of people, both in business and their personal lives, it's quite hard at the moment for people to stay in that positive kind of mindset. Do you have any, because it seems natural to you that you're positive, but I don't know how much of that is true, or if you kind of work hard on that.
I am glass half full in general. I think my attitude to it with problems are, can you change it, is the real question. Can you do anything about a problem? And some things you can, and then you're best to spend all your effort, rather than worrying about things, you're best to spend your effort into trying to change it or trying to improve the situation. Like if something goes wrong with a client, you should focus on trying to make things right and work on that. And if you can't, then there's no point in worrying about it, because there's nothing you can do. So at the minute, I can't go out and film videos. No one's going to pay me to go out and film videos. It would be terrible, irresponsible to do that anyway. So naturally go, okay, well, what are the positives here? And I do generally think, and obviously people who, obviously it's a serious situation if people are financially in a financial trouble or ill from coronavirus, it's obviously a very, very bad thing. But if you're not, I mean, you're in a great, people are getting paid. You've been told to sit at home. And you know, like that would be a dream 6 months ago. Do you know what I mean? For many people, but also it gives you that time to think and reflect. Like whenever I go on a holiday, you get. I don't know about you, but I find business-wise, I'm thinking of so many more things. I should do this. This would be a good idea. I could start doing this. Start doing this sort of thing, because you've had a little bit of time away, and I think this will give people a bit of time to reflect. And again, you can start up creative things. If you were like, any business could be. Even if you can't help your business make money now, you can help your business make money in the future by starting up a podcast or a YouTube thing or something like that, and making content.
Yeah, that's certain. I mean, we've said about we're very fortunate at the moment that our business is just as busy as it was before this. But I don't know how long that will last.
No, that could all change.
But we're very open to the fact that we could have much less money coming in or nothing coming in for a while. But I feel quite positive and excited, as long as that doesn't go on for years. We can focus more on things like this on the podcast and the longer term stuff that could help us in the future.
We literally planned when this all sort of came out. Remember, we had a chat and sort of said, right, if work completely dies off, what are we going to do? And we were actually getting excited about all the great stuff we were going to do to work on the business and all the content we were going to create.
Yeah.
And
so I think obviously it's a hugely negative situation, but at the end of the day, this would be the most negative part of the podcast. But people are dying, so that's terrible. But for all of us to get through this, we've got to not just focus on that the whole time. We can be sad about that and help people in need and those vulnerable people that are in our communities. But you've also got to try and be positive throughout and do some positive things for yourself.
How do you guys both manage that? Because that just made me think. I've seen a few people, especially on LinkedIn. I hang around on LinkedIn quite a lot. And there's some people that are very much like, oh, why are you sort of sharing fun content, entertaining stuff? You shouldn't be doing that right now. Whereas, I guess, I haven't actually asked you this, but my mindset is, I think we should be creating entertaining content to uplift people. But then people, I don't know. Robbie, what about you? Where's the line?
Yeah, I think if it's, are you talking about stuff that's unrelated to the virus?
Yeah, unrelated.
Yeah, I think 100%. I mean, you're not going to stop. People need to do stuff. It's not. I mean, I'm sure these people who are moaning are still watching Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're not just sitting there thinking about people who are ill. Like they're consuming stuff. They're doing stuff. I mean, it's. I don't think things stop because of that. I think people need entertaining, and there's a value in that to people that isn't as important as testing them for coronavirus, but it is. It is something that will help people in this situation.
I guess we're not doctors, so we can do what we can do, can't we?
Yeah. And I get a lot of something I didn't expect at all. I get a lot of people who message me who suffer from depression or anxiety and say that my videos really help them, which I hadn't considered that at all, because a lot of them are quite relaxing garden-based things. And I have had messages from people saying, thank you for making videos, not stopping making videos at this time. It really helps me out. My anxiety being locked up and that. So I think there is definitely a value to people from doing stuff that entertains them.
I guess the other side of that, Dan, is the kind of business etiquette at this time, because there is a line, because I've seen people using coronavirus and things kind of in their marketing of certain products or courses and stuff, and that makes me a bit uneasy. But I understand there might be, if at the end of the day, if you're selling a course that's going to really help people during the time that the pandemic's happening, I guess you would mention it. But where's the line in that kind of...
I got a message on LinkedIn yesterday from a nutritionist who's doing a coronavirus meal plan. And it kind of... I saw it and it sort of didn't sit right with me.
It's hard because I understand that it potentially they could be providing good value, saying kind of when you're less active and you're you're going to be sitting around a lot, here's a meal plan for now. But then it's the uneasy side of kind of using it
to your advantage
in your marketing to your advantage, which is a bit weird as well. So
it's a sort of grey. It's a sort of grubby area, isn't it? Sort of thing. I mean, I think if he'd said store cupboard meal plans that you can make without going out, I think that's fine. But I think when you put coronavirus in the title, then it starts to be a bit more. Come on, mate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Well, I think I mean, I asked our positivity expert Robbie Knox at the start, because obviously he is an expert in this area, and now whenever we need an outside broadcast on anything to do with positivity or survival or creativity, obviously we'll have to go to Robbie.
I think we should do that.
But
I'm in.
But I know that, Dan, for your mood, not just what's going on now, I know that exercise has a big part of... Am I right? I think?
Yeah. I think that's obviously changed a lot since the gyms all closed, but I was going to the gym sort of 5 times a week before work, and I think when I was younger, I sort of did it because I wanted to look really muscly and cool. But as I'm older and sort of give less of a shit about that, it's more... When you do exercise,
you started listening to your older brother Robbie saying you don't need to care about anything.
Exactly, I listened to watching Robbie's content, and but no, it makes you feel. It's all the science behind it, all the endorphins and things that get released. But it makes you feel good. I don't know. Do you guys do? Robbie, do you do exercise?
I run quite a bit. I go through phases a bit, but I've done 3 marathons and a few half marathons. And
Oh
stuff
wow!
like that.
Just throw that in
And
there.
I do. I don't like running. Like I'm not a run. I don't enjoy the act of running. I like the smugness afterwards. I like if I'm going into London that day and I've run in the morning. I like looking on the train and looking at you lazy, pathetic scum. I like that feeling, and I like seeing improvement in times and stuff like that. But I also I enjoy the headspace and the time, and I'll quite often run to podcasts and mostly sort of businessy sort of things or thinky sort of stuff like Tim Ferriss or Gary Vee.
Oh, I
and
thought
stuff
you
like
meant
that.
I thought you meant run to podcasts as if when you're a guest on a podcast you run to it.
Oh, no,
you
no.
meant run.
yeah. Always, yeah. Next time you get me on with This Is Dad, I'll just do a quick 30-mile down the road, run down the road.
Yeah.
No. So I'll run listening to podcasts and that, and I find I do have quite a lot of thoughts or ideas or inspirational moments whilst out running and out in the open air and stuff like that. Yeah.
Nice.
Wasn't there some? Lloyd, you mentioned before Robbie did some de-ranking thing.
Oh yeah, I was in my notes actually when we were talking about this. I said you did have a bit of a de-ranking escapade where you.
I need to de-rank again, to be honest.
Oh, do you?
At the minute,
Okay.
yeah. It's.
Can you explain what de-ranking is?
Just being.
Or a non-
It was coming towards the summer, and we were going on holiday with a group of like another family, and I just didn't want them to be sick when I went swimming at the sight of me. So I thought I'd become a little bit less rank, and then they it wouldn't be as unpleasant for them really. So it's just been nice, to be honest, to them.
That's very thoughtful, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Christmas was a bit hard, and at the minute I'm in quite a lot. So I do need to start de-ranking again soon. When this bike comes along, that's going to be a big factor in it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
Sure.
It is weird. I feel like when you've exercised in the morning, or at the start of the day, I do feel like I'm less inclined to eat sort of really unhealthily or better that day, because I'm kind of thinking, well, I don't want to undo that good stuff that I've done before.
Yeah.
But then saying that, I mean, yesterday I went on the cross trainer, and then I had 7 beers with my friends on a virtual night last night.
Have you done any of those virtual sort of drinky things with your mates, Robbie? Or...
Yeah. What we've started doing, I've done a few virtual things. I went to a virtual birthday party the other day, which was a bit weird. It was named everything. It was Tim Lovejoy who used to present Soccer AM. It was his birthday party, and there were about 9 of us there, and it was a bit weird though, because like, you'd sort of have a conversation, someone else would have a conversation, and then you couldn't talk while they're talking. It's not like in a pub where you can have a little chat just on the side. So Tim asked me a question, and then some other people started talking about things. And I waited for that. I could see him smiling because he knew I was waiting to answer the question. We still see each other. And then in the end, I just got my phone up and just texted him the answer while the other two people were still talking to the question. So yeah.
I do feel it's kind of a new skill that I'm having to develop, and I think also in business with Zoom calls with lots of people and stuff, it's like it's not normal conversation where you're all having a chat like you said. It's kind of like you have to right, these 2 people out of the 10 of us are talking, and then I have to wait for the right moment, and then kind of I was going to say this as well.
Like we've done a previous episode about networking events. Yeah. The in-person things where you go for breakfast with other business people. But there's some of those I've seen are trying to turn virtual. So you turn up to a virtual networking event when there's like 20 people. Yeah. And normally you'd, like you said, Robbie, you'd go into clusters of smaller conversations. Yeah. But you'd literally be sitting, watching 2 people speak to each other.
And also
trying to sell their aloe vera drinks. There you go. Call back.
Exactly.
I do this.
Yeah, listen. Yeah. And also, in a group of people, there's always one person that likes the sound of their own voice quite a lot. And I mean, imagine if you're all having, because normally you'd kind of go, I've just got a nip and go to the toilet for I'll be back. But in that, you're just kind of all sitting there thinking, still talking about aloe vera. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
The other thing I've got into is playing poker with my friends, not to a responsible level, not an out of control sort of thing. But what we do is every Sunday and Wednesday now, we put £10 in each. You put £11 in because you do it on the site. The site takes £1, and the rest gets split between people. And I came third the first night and made, I think, something like £7. And then the other night, I won 60 quid. So
nice.
It's my main income now, is poker with my friends.
Nice. Yeah. Another revenue stream, Robbie.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there we go. So
diversifying.
Poker I'm really enjoying at the minute. Obviously, gamble responsibly and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, to summarise our experts' advice, we've got to diversify our income and our general ways of living. If that's not working, I mean, just play poker and try and win your income.
Just go all
gamble
in
responsibly.
Yeah. If you've got a little bit of money left, spend it all on poker. It's definitely
Great advice there. We'll clip that out.
Okay. And on that note, guys, I think we can wrap it up there. We've taken a lot of your time, Robbie. Thank you very much.
I enjoyed it. I'm sad it's finished.
Really,
I'm sure we'll have you back.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, just come along every week, Robbie.
I'll come down when there's when we're allowed to go outside. I'll come down to Margate in the summer.
An episode in
I'll avoid any beans and Bulmers.
Yeah, we'll record it at the end of the day so we can go drinking afterwards.
Yes,
stuff like that. And I can get the high-speed train back up to my part of Kent.
Nice. Right, well, anyway, I've just realised our listeners don't need to listen to the logistics of how we're going to meet after this, do they? But
you see, I can either go to Ebbsfleet Station and get a taxi, or I can carry on up the line to Swanley, and then I can change and come back on myself.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Robbie.
A taxi's about 15 quid, though, so I'm probably better off getting the train all the way if I can.
I like it.
Thank you very much, Robbie Knox. And where can you talk about your podcast and YouTube channel, Robbie? Where can people find you if they have enjoyed listening to your lovely advice and things going on?
Well, as the train toots the end of the podcast that I arranged to happen, I will tell you can find me at youtube.com/Robbie Knox. I think it is. You can type in Robbie Knox on YouTube. I think I'm the only prominent Robbie Knox on there. You can find me on there. I do 3 podcasts currently, depending on when you're listening to it. I do Football Legends, which is exclusive to Spotify. That is a thing where we read stories from footballers' autobiographies and talk about them, and occasionally we have footballers on it. That's just search Football Legends on Spotify. I do a podcast called Jack Mate's Happy Half Hour. That's part of Jack Mate's Happy Hour. That is a very popular podcast.
Yes,
and you can listen to that by searching that anywhere. And while we're on lockdown, at least, I do a thing called Cooped Up with Lloyd Griffith, which again you can find on podcasty places and stuff. So yeah, that's me.
Great.
And I'm on social media. I'm on the social medias as well, including TikTok.
Unfortunately, Robbie, no one's going to listen to that because they switched off when you were talking about your travel plans. But there might be a couple of people that.
Well, for those who did hang on, I will tell you, I only live about 5 minutes from the station, so at the other end it is a very easy walk back, even drunk. So yeah, a little bit of extra bonus for those who hung around.
Oh, you're lucky. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Robbie, for being our first ever guest. Really enjoyed it. And it would really help us if you can rate and review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on Spotify, and tell your friends and family and colleagues where to listen to this, because they haven't got anything to do. There's lots of people twiddling their thumbs. But
are you talking to me or the listeners here? Do you want me? Are you asking me to do this? Because I've just given up like an hour and a half of my time, and now you're asking me to go and write reviews and stuff. I think you're taking the piss.
I mean, I'd appreciate it, Robbie, but that was to the listeners. But one more review would be absolutely brilliant, Robbie. And thank you for your 92 minutes as well, Robbie.
Very welcome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, viewers. Bye. Bye, listeners. Bye.
Bye.